Hi everyone, it's Peter from PS Sound, and now this is the second video showing a little bit what's happening behind the scene in a crazy project like we have in this Volkswagen Amarok. In the previous video you could see the mid-bass install, how we were doing that. Now we are onto the dashboard. Yes, it looks pretty drastic anytime a dashboard comes out of a car. In some cars it's easy, in some cars it's a bit more pain. People worry about plugs, when you unplug everything, will you remember to put the plugs back to the same place? And will you not forget any of them? Yes, you have to pay attention to those things, but you don't have to worry about misplacing one plug, because every single plug is individual and can only go back to its place. So as you can see, we had to take the steering wheel off, the stalk off. Even the transmission had to move a little bit in order to take the dash out, but at least it didn't come with the crash bar, which is the biggest enemy in most cars when you have to pull it with the crash bar, because then it's heavy. The whole wiring loom has to come off. At least in this one, the whole wiring loom stayed in place. But what the plan is, just like many other times you could see before, we are placing the mid-range drivers onto the dash, but that needs custom work, and you're gonna see how we are attacking this. There's no magic in this one anymore. Same approach, but we have to do a bit of cutty. So the mid-range is going to be roughly run here from the top, where we will drill through and position it from the top to make sure that we have clearance from the pillar, because this is where the pillar sits in. So probably it's going to be somewhere around there rather. But we can already see that, for example, this hook point for the dash is in the way, so that will go. We still have two hook points in the middle where it sits into the front, and once it's in, it gets bolted in, so it's not going to go anywhere, but this is a small sacrifice that will go. And this vent, which does this side bit, that's going to go, but you still have that one that can blow the side window off, so that's not a biggie. As we always say, everything for sound quality, right? So we're going to have Steg MSS3 4-inch mids, for the reason that it's a larger mid, and that gives us more flexibility when it comes to tuning, especially as this car is a competitor car, and if we need a preset for competition where we have to tick more boxes, and we need the mid-range that's more capable to play low, and these drivers are really great for that. Also, the mid-range is fantastic with them, so that's the plan. The rings were made out of birch ply with machined inserts super glued into the wood, so that makes our life easier to fit the drivers once they are in the car with machine bolts. And you can see the inserts in there, chamfered at the back for better airflow. But yeah, this section is getting out, and then Eddie can deaden the whole bottom of the dash. Those vents came out, so we have access, because they come from here to the side. So once those popped out, then as you can see, there's easy access everywhere for deadening. So let's do it. After Eddie cleared up the bottom section, as you could see from the time lapse, now we are drilling the hole, the favorite part everyone worries about. So we had a bit of measurement from underneath to see clearance issues, and we had to copy those distances to the top, hence the tape, so we can measure. And my beautiful hole saw cutter, we just placed it evenly around, and then if you release the drill bit, which now I can't grab with 2 fingers, I can, yeah, then you can use that to give a center point, which we got lined up ready to drill. And hopefully we have clearance in the car, right? We had discussions with the owner how he would be happy with also not just, you know, how it sounds, but how it looks. And he wanted the driver to be flush with the surface and maybe just trim ring over it to hide the cut line. So what you could see from the time lapse that, yeah, we were doing a bit of chippy chop to make the ring get in there. So I had to use a rabbit to take it further down, so when it's put in, it can be pushed out to the right level, but we can only check it if the driver is bolted in. And we had to cut out the ring here and there where the dash has higher spots we can't get rid of. Yeah, it's playing with millimeters till you get to the stage that the driver, well, you see it now upside down, but it's flush with the surface. So once the other side is done and it's fiber filled in, then we will flip it around and then we will talk about how we will make it pretty. It's easier to see it now as we flip the dash around, how it stays flush. So we will just need a trim ring over the mounting holes and that gap to make it neat. And of course here we will have to do a bit of cosmetics to hide that too. So we end up with something like that, but now it's time for bonding it in. You can see that he is masking up because we don't want any fiber fill to come through from the back, because we have tiny little gaps here and there. Even more probably, yeah, on that side. It's difficult to see, but yeah, it's fiber fill time to make it rigid. Where are we now? It's definitely difficult to record all the steps. To be fair, it's impossible, especially when we have more work than time. And we are just hoping we can finish this car by the deadline. Yeah, I just wanted to stop for a second. So we 3D printed a ring. Fortunately, this got screwed up. Because when the 3D printer prints it like this, then it has to print the platform And with Eddie first we designed a large angle on both sides plus a round over on the top, so there wasn't enough surface area to stick down to, and it warped a little bit and it got quite shit. So at least we could use this piece to carefully grind it back to the shape of that indentation. So the second piece that we printed that is already trimmed, as you can see, we could just copy this. And then Eddie had a good idea because he used a piece of cardboard, literally put that in there, traced it around, and when the second piece came out of the printer, just put it into the new one, pull the line on it, and then slowly worked his way back with the grinder. And once it's trimmed, it's something like that. It's a bit thicker and donutty, a bit more donutty than we were hoping for, but when we first printed the 3mm, that was 3mm over there, it's a bit too thin even if it's full fill. When it's 4mm it gives more strength, and then to the time the vinyl comes on, which is 1.5mm both sides, top and bottom, then it just becomes slowly it builds up, it becomes thicker. Of course it would be neater if it was all nicely fiber filled in and blended in, but then the whole dash would have to be retrimmed, and we certainly don't have that time or the skills. Then the whole dash would have to go to a trimmer, but then the car is just waiting. It's not that type of project. If someone has that patience and budget, fair enough, then it can be done. Or we were lucky with Eddie's, although we haven't had video showing Eddie's dashboard yet in his daily car. We were lucky with that piece, but it's definitely better even doing this than putting them in pillars where they don't have enough breathing space and whatnot. This location works way better. If you want to see more about that, what we think about pillar locations and dash locations, all the odds and cons, then go on Patreon. You can find a link in description. Then we have videos where we talk about it for like half an hour or an hour, where we have weekly topics dedicated to topics like this. So that's coming along. The second piece just came out of the printer. Well, you can see from here what it's like without the trim ring. Speaker gets bolted in, and then this finishes it nicely. So as soon as the other piece is also trimmed, then the dash can go back. It was just easier to work on this part when the dash is out. Once it's in, you wouldn't be able to see in there. Yeah, there's a lot happening here. As you can see, pillars. This was the first and the last time I was working on someone else's pillars, which were already built for a previous build. Because you could see from the introduction that we had mids and tweets in them, and I had to cut the shit out of them. And it just had so much extra time and faff and everything. It would be easier to start with brand new pillars. I understand that this is a car that you don't see too much on the road, or it's not that easy to find pillars from the breakers. But yeah, it would make my life easier if I could just start from scratch. So quite a lot of the pillar got chopped out, as you can see. Created rings for the tweeters, flush mounted, just a tiny bit of 2mm drop, so it will look neater. And then this can get somewhere in there and then build up the whole pillar from scratch. So yeah, that's gonna be the next job. now we are at the stage to build up a structure for the pillars. You can see from the time lapse that I built it up in the car with my usual plywood madness. And as there wasn't much left from the pillar, as you can see, only a thin strip each side. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. So I had to fiber fill it from the back to bond it together. Maybe we'll need more strengthening, but that was enough for now. And then you could see the way quite often I do it with wooden sticks, and then many holes drilled all around, so the fiber fill is going to grab into the plastic from both sides and hold the whole structure together. Because quite often people just build onto the surface. Like this pillar was built like that before. Everything was built onto the pillar without a single hole drilled through, so the structure would really truly bond to the surface. The owner was lucky that it never cracked, and it was paint finished, so it held up pretty well. But especially when you have to stretch the pillars and you have stress on them or something, it can easily crack. So that's the best option always, if you drill through and then bond it together, in and out. The trouble is, on the time-lapse, everything looks way too simple and easy. Especially when I speed up the time-lapse and then these couple of minutes, don't speed it up, yeah, let's record everything in real time, and then people will be sitting there for hours. Some people consider it as an easy job, doing custom fabrication, working with all sorts of, you know, fiber filler, resin and all that crap. But the favorite part, which is not the favorite part, is coming now, the actual shaping, the sanding. So for Twitter, this is now definitely going to be strong enough, with the plywood structure in the middle of it, giving the core for the pillars. Even if we started off with something really thin that was left out of it, but now, yeah, we can smash someone with it and they would feel it. So yeah, now sanding. I have a feeling that some of you have skipped through, because yeah, even in time lapse, it's a lot. It's a lot of sanding, and sadly, there's no solution to skip over that and make it simpler. Yes, some people just stretch fabric over the pillar, but then usually they build onto the original surface of the pillar, whereas this was completely built from scratch. This way the tweeters are further out, they are less intrusive into your view, and the stage is also wider that way. But as you could see, yeah, it's a lot of hard work creating shapes, make it smooth, and then this way it's rigid. Yes, for a tweeter it doesn't really matter, but then when you put it in the car you don't want it to flex and crack and whatnot. These will be trimmed, customer wanted trimmed with vinyl, but I have concerns with that because we have quite a shape, a 3D shape coming away from the pillar, and then wrapping over that without seams is tricky. Yeah, it looks really cool to see now the little wooden sticks inside there. So now we only have to trim these and install them. But yeah, when people ask me, you know, how long these things take, how much we charge, how much these things cost, you know, how much labor cost is different every single part of the planet. In India they may charge a couple of dollars, in the US they charge between $80 and $200 an hour. In UK it's anything between 30 and 50 an hour in pounds. In Europe, yeah, it's usually 60-80 euros. So custom fabrication unfortunately costs money. If you want an easy result and a good sounding car, buy a car where you have good factory locations and you don't have to do any custom fabrication. Otherwise, don't get surprised. You know, if you take your car to your mechanic, how much do they charge per hour? Think about it. Yeah, but yes, you don't need anything to be done on your car that would take so long, like what we are doing in this car, surely. But then, you know, this is a luxury. Having a high-end audio system in a car is a luxury, let's be honest. So if you want the best, then you know what you're facing. Because now these pillars, you could see from the time lapse, yesterday I spent 4 hours making the rings and then building up the pillars in the car. Then today from 8 in the morning is 10:21. So I'm putting in really long hours. That is here till 5, but usually I stay longer if we have really tight deadline. So that's easily 11 hours put into these pillars, excluding breakfast and lunch, you know. So we are at 15, and then it still has to be trimmed. So it's going to be easily like 17-18 hours just into the pillars for the tweeters. Then we have the dashboard build, the mid bass in the kicks. At the end, when everything is done, I'm going to pull it on and you will see how many hours we've put in so far. But to be fair, some of the best cars we build, they are beyond 300 hours at least, including everything, the whole installation, soundproofing, wiring, whatnot. The craziest would be my Honda. That would be at least around 700 hours at least. The Insignia we built, that was close to that, something like that, above 600 hours overall. So yeah, these are time-consuming jobs. All right, so let's see what they look like in the car. And this is the end of the dash build and the pillars in with the tweeters. As per usual, hardly any time to take this footage. The owner is already here. It's about to let this car go home, but quickly I wanted to share what we've done. You could see from all the time lapses, all the craziness, this is what we ended up with. The tweeters definitely look better recolored. That's gold, silver, black. That was, yeah, not quite, but then this way it blends in pretty nicely. It's not intrusive. Your field of view is not blocked. Then we have the 4-inch Steg MSS3 right there. And then the other side, nice and neat. Yeah, we were talking about it, that it's quite shocking how much work and how many hours we put into this, and it doesn't really show. Probably the owner's wife will be like, you know, why was the car away for 2 weeks for this? It's not much work. You can't even see that, especially now with the floor mat on. You can't see this kick build much either. But then you could see from the previous video what went into the mid-base install. It wasn't a job for kids, that's for sure. Tough. It was one of the toughest 2 weeks we had with this car, to be fair, when it comes to fabrication. A lot of hard work in awkward positions and a lot of sanding. Yeah, crazy stuff, but it was 100% worth it. What this system is already doing with fresh speakers is great. And to the time we also do the sub installation at the back. That's going to be the next part, when you will see how we cut through the back wall, when I was explaining it in the introduction video of this project. Yeah, we will have 2 18s at the back wall, so that will be quite something. IB mid-bass, IB subs. It's going to be a great fun system. So I'm going to cut it here. I'll leave it here. Hopefully you liked what you've seen, just to get a bit of insight into what goes into these mad systems we build. And also check out description. There's a link to the playlist of this project, as well as a link to Patreon. If you haven't heard about it yet, it's a platform which we run, where you get to see behind the scene content, RTA evaluations of systems just like this, so you can see how the system measures, how it got pulled together. It gives a bit more idea about what's really required to get a great system, because we always say it's all about the installation, location, application, and tuning, right? Phil in Australia, he even made t-shirts for us with these titles. This is brilliant. I haven't even shown it on YouTube yet. But yeah, we have a lot of fun on Patreon. Come and check out, guys. You can learn a lot, and you can also then be part of the private Facebook group we have, where the guys can also share their work and a lot of their experience and knowledge. So it's a brilliant community. It's worth checking out. So this is it. Hopefully you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Feel free to comment, share it so more people can see all this madness. And then hopefully I can bring the next one very soon. Take care.